If you think you've seen the darkest corners of America's prisons, think again. Subscribe, like, and drop a comment, because what you're about to hear is the kind of truth they don't print in reports. The storm had already swallowed the Colorado sky when the call came through, a frantic alert from the federal transfer van heading toward ADX Florence. The officers' voices crackled with panic, drowned beneath the pounding rain. Their message was short, but it sliced through the silence of the night like a blade. "We've lost him." Those 3 words were impossible. The inmate they were transporting wasn't just any prisoner. His case file carried more red tape than a classified intelligence report. His restraints were custom-designed. His movements were monitored to the second. And his name, well, in the corridors of federal law enforcement, no one said it casually. Elias Mercer. Convicted of orchestrating one of the most sophisticated financial and political corruption syndromes the country had seen in decades, a web of bribery, forgery, encrypted messages, and shadow transactions that had pulled powerful people into its undertow. But what made Mercer different wasn't his crimes. It was what he knew. Secrets that weren't supposed to exist. Names that were never supposed to surface. As the storm raged, FBI Special Agent Mara Ellison arrived at the crash site. The transfer van sat crumpled against a rock formation, hazard lights blinking weakly against sheets of rain. The officers were shaken but alive, strapped in their seats. No signs of a struggle. No broken locks. And yet Mercer, a man whose wrists had been chained, ankles secured, waist locked to the seat, was gone. Ellison stepped closer, examining the interior. Everything was intact. No cut restraints. No tampered locks. Just an empty space where the most tightly monitored inmate in the federal system had been minutes earlier. It didn't make sense. It couldn't make sense. She checked the dash cam. The last frame was a flash of blue-white light from a lightning strike, then static. When the screen blinked back to life, Mercer was already missing. No figure exiting. No silhouette. Nothing. As rainwater pooled at her feet, Ellison felt something she hadn't felt in years, a cold, tightening instinct that the case was about to unravel in ways no training could prepare her for. Back at the Denver field office, every department scrambled. They combed through road cameras, emergency signals, atmospheric interference logs. Nothing. Mercer had vanished as if he'd stepped through the cracks of the storm. But Ellison saw something others overlooked. A muddy footprint at the crash site, partially washed away, but distinct enough to show it didn't belong to any officer. It was too clean, too deliberate, as if placed there, not left. The pattern was unusual. Not a boot. Not a standard shoe. Something else. Something she'd seen once before in a case that had been sealed and buried under national security exceptions. She didn't say a word. Not yet. Hours later, as she drove toward ADX with the wind howling against her windshield, Mercer's file sat open on the passenger seat. A detail she'd ignored before now pressed itself into her mind with an eerie weight. Mercer had always claimed that a second entity, unnamed, untraceable, operated behind his schemes. He called them the architects. Everyone assumed it was a ploy to shift blame. But as Ellison neared the prison, headlights washing over miles of fencing and razor wire, a notification pinged on her phone. An encrypted message sent from an unlisted address. For words only. "You're already too late." She slammed on the brakes. Heart pounding. Because the message wasn't just a threat. It was a time-stamped warning, sent before the crash had even been reported. And then came the call from the ADX warden himself. His voice was tight, strained. "Agent Ellison, you need to get here now. We opened a restricted cell tonight. The one booked for Mercer's arrival." She waited. "There's something inside it," he said. "Something we were never told about." A pause. "It has his name on it." The line went dead. Ellison stared into the darkness ahead. Miles of concrete, steel, secrets, and a vanished man whose shadow stretched much farther than any prison wall. She pressed the accelerator. Because whatever waited in that cell would change the investigation forever. The gates of ADX Florence boomed shut behind Agent Mara Ellison like a warning. This place didn't welcome visitors, not even federal agents with clearance. The air was colder inside, heavier, as though the concrete itself held its breath. Warden Kellerman met her near the administrative wing. His face didn't match the reputation she'd heard. A man known for unshakable calm now looked like he'd walked out of a nightmare he couldn't explain. "It's in cell C, 214, he said. "No one was supposed to enter that block today, but well, you'll see." They moved through a maze of polished corridors, every footstep echoing too loudly. ADX always felt sterile, controlled, predictable. Tonight, it felt wrong. At the final steel door, Kellerman tapped a code. The heavy locks disengaged, and the coldest section of the prison opened in front of them, a wing reserved for inmates who had become too dangerous even for supermax standards. Mercer's new home. But Mercer had never reached it. Ellison stepped inside cell C, 214. It was spotless, ready for intake. But there, on the floor, lying exactly in the center of the room, was an object that chilled her more than the storm outside. A small blue notebook, edges sharp, spine clean, not a speck of dust on it. And handwritten on the cover, in dark ink, E. Mercer, contingency log. Ellison stared. This was here before the transfer van crashed? Kellerman swallowed. "We don't know. The cell was last checked yesterday. Empty. No visitors? None. No maintenance? Zero." Ellison approached the notebook. No fingerprints on the glossy cover. No signs of tampering. As if it had simply appeared. She opened it. The first page was filled with rows of dates, each one correlating with an event from Mercer's criminal timeline. Arrests of associates, leaked recordings, hidden financial movements. But the dates were all written before those events ever happened. Predictions. Accurate ones. The next pages went even further. They outlined steps the authorities would take, almost word for word, including the stormy transport and the crash. She flipped to the most recent entry. Phase 7. Vanishing point. Status. Complete. Next phase. Determine if Ellison will comply. Her pulse thudded in her ears. The notebook knew she'd come here. It was waiting for her. Kellerman leaned closer, uneasy. "Is this a threat?" "No," Ellison murmured. "It's a message." Before she could turn the page, alarms erupted. A sharp, pulsing wail echoing across the block. The lights flickered, then stabilized. Kellerman grabbed his radio, demanding answers. A guard responded, breathless. "Warden, you need to get to the security hub. Now." They rushed down the corridor. Guards parted, anxious eyes tracking them. At the hub, screens flickered with camera feeds from across the compound. One monitor was frozen on the transfer loading zone, a place no one should be. "Play it back," Ellison ordered. A technician rewound the footage. Midnight. An empty concrete yard drenched in rain. Then a shadow. A figure walking calmly toward the camera, head low beneath the hood of a blue rain jacket. The figure approached until the camera caught the lower half of their face. Enough to see the jawline. Enough to recognize the unmistakable calm expression. Elias Mercer. Ellison stepped forward. "This is impossible. This was recorded while we were responding to the crash." The technician replayed the final seconds. Mercer stopped walking and looked up directly into the camera, as if he knew exactly where it was. His lips moved. No audio, but the words were unmistakable. "You're looking in the wrong place." The feed ended in static. Kellerman turned to Ellison. "He was here, on site." "No," she said slowly, her voice tight with dread. "He wanted us to believe that." "Why?" Ellison didn't answer. Her gaze shifted back to the notebook in her hand. Because Mercer didn't do anything without a reason. Every move was a diversion, a misdirection. If the footage was planted, if the notebook was planted, then someone had access to systems, surveillance, and space inside a prison built to be impenetrable. Someone who wasn't working alone. Ellison flipped to the last written line in the notebook, one she hadn't noticed before. "If you're reading this, the clock has already started." She felt the chills sink into her bones. "What clock?" Kellerman asked. Ellison closed the notebook slowly. The one counting down to whatever Mercer planned next. And just as she spoke, another alarm blared, deeper, more urgent. A guard shouted from the hallway. "Agent Ellison, we got a problem. A staff member is missing. His badge was used to access the West Maintenance Tunnel 10 minutes ago." Ellison's stomach dropped. Because the West Tunnel wasn't used for inmate movement. It was used for removals, evidence, documents, and anything the prison wanted off-site before anyone noticed. Mercer wasn't escaping. He was cleaning up. And Ellison realized something with dread. Someone inside ADX was helping him. The West Maintenance Tunnel was colder than the rest of ADX, a place built for utility, not people. A narrow corridor of concrete ribs stretched into darkness, illuminated only by a few flickering overhead bulbs. Agent Mara Ellison felt every vibration of the prison above her, every hum of machinery, every distant slam of steel. But what she felt most was the pace of her heartbeat. Because the deeper she went, the more she sensed she was no longer chasing Elias Mercer. She was walking into something he'd already set in motion. The missing staff member's badge had been used to open 3 checkpoints, each one leading closer to the tunnel exit, a door that led directly to a restricted service, lot used only twice a year. Too isolated. Too easy to manipulate. Too perfect for whatever Mercer was orchestrating. Ellison reached the final steel gate. Her flashlight beam traced scratches along the metal lock plate, fresh ones. Someone had forced it open with precision. Ahead, the tunnel sloped downward into a dim chamber lined with old storage shelves and sealed containers marked confidential. Kellerman and 2 guards followed behind her, but Ellison lifted a hand. Slowly. No sudden moves. She stepped into the room. The air was icy, still, holding the metallic scent of equipment that hadn't been touched in years. Then she saw the missing staff member, sitting upright against the wall, unharmed but sedated. His badge hung loosely from his shirt, still active. Kellerman exhaled. "Thank God he's alive." Ellison crouched beside the man, checking his pulse. Steady. Controlled sedation. Whoever administered it knew exactly what they were doing. She pulled out her flashlight and scanned the floor. Footprints again. The same unusual pattern she'd seen at the crash site. But now she could see the full shape more clearly. Not boots. Not shoes. Something custom. Something that matched the type worn by a highly specialized federal unit disbanded years ago, after an internal scandal that had been sealed beyond standard clearance. Ellison's stomach tightened. She knew exactly which unit it was. Project Scepter. A covert group of operatives used for deep cover infiltration, surveillance manipulation, and high-risk extraction missions. Officially shut down. Unofficially, who knew? Behind her, Kellerman muttered, "This doesn't look like Mercer's doing." "It's not," Ellison said. "But it's connected to him. Someone with training knew exactly how to get in and out without detection." Her flashlight beam swept across the shelves, stopping on an open container. Dozens of classified files lay scattered inside it. Not stolen, not destroyed, just examined. As if someone was searching for something very specific. Then Ellison saw the slip of paper on top of the scattered files. It was ripped from the same blue notebook. A single handwritten line stretched across it. "You're almost there." She felt a chill surge through her chest. Mercer wasn't running. He was leading her. "Agent Ellison," one of the guards called out. "You need to see this." He pointed to a small control terminal near the far wall, its screen glowing a faint blue. Not a prison system interface. Something else. The layout was unfamiliar, stripped down, almost military grade. A countdown timer blinked on the center of the screen. 0:27. 0:26. 0:25. Kellerman stepped back in alarm. "What is that?"
"A bomb."
Ellison shook her head.
"No."
"Mercer doesn't use explosives. He uses information." She tapped keys quickly, trying to interrupt the sequence.
"Locked."
"Encrypted." The screen flashed with a message. "Data extraction in progress." The timer dropped below 20 seconds. Kellerman's voice rose. Extraction of what? Ellison's mind raced. Maintenance tunnels connected to the prison's archival network. That meant classified inmate files, internal correspondence, sealed government communications. Everything the prison kept locked away from public eyes.
012. 011. 010.
Someone's pulling data out of the system, she said. Someone inside. 008. 007. She stepped back, bracing herself. Everyone move away from the terminal. 003. 002.
001.
The timer hit 0. The lights flickered. The air hummed. Then, silence. The screen went black. Ellison rushed in, scanning the terminal. Check the network, she demanded. Check all secure archives. Within seconds, guards shouted updates into their radios. Files missing. Entire segments of sealed intelligence gone. Access logs wiped. Kellerman stared at her. What did he take? Ellison didn't blink. Not just his own secrets. Everyone else's. Before Kellerman could respond, a new message appeared on the dark screen, glowing blue, like a whisper from beneath water. Phase 8 complete. Phase 9 in motion. Thank you, Agent Ellison, for opening the door. Her breath caught in her throat, because the signature at the bottom of the message was not Elias Mercer's. It was from someone she hadn't heard from in years, a name buried in the classified Project Scepter files she once worked alongside. A name she thought had died. A name that changed everything. S. Hale. Kellerman read it slowly. Who is Hale? Ellison stepped back, pulse pounding, her expression hollow. He's the one who recruited Mercer, she whispered. The one who trained him. The one who vanished before Mercer was arrested. Her voice dropped, tight and shaken. He was my partner. Above them, alarms began to scream again, louder, sharper, cutting through every layer of the prison. Guards yelled about perimeter breaches, about system overrides, about tunnels unlocking. Mercer hadn't escaped ADX at all. He'd been freed from the outside. Ellison closed her eyes, the realization hitting like a blow. This wasn't a prison break, she said. It was a retrieval. As chaos erupted across the compound, the screen flickered one final time, revealing a timestamp for the next phase.
A date.
A location. A warning. And at the bottom, a final line written in the same calm handwriting Hale had always used when he meant something deadly serious. This isn't the end. It's the beginning. The message faded. The tunnel lights dimmed. And Agent Ellison understood the truth. Mercer was never the real threat. Hale was. And now he had everything he needed. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.